Hey everyone, it's George from Blockchain DXB and today is the 21st of December 2022 and the global cryptocurrency market is not doing good at all, particularly the volume of DeFi, stable coins, and we have some really massive important news, and this is to do with Bitcoin mining. Core Scientific, which is one of the largest publicly traded crypto mining companies in US, is filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. So we'll be talking about that in today's episode, and I do believe I did cover about Core Scientific at least a couple of weeks ago. Now we'll also be discussing some of the dangers of SPAC, that is special purpose acquisition companies, and that could be one of the reasons why it has gone belly up as well. And in today's episode, we're also going to be discussing a blog by CoinShares. And what happens is every Mondays, Glassnodes and CoinShares, they tend to provide a weekly insight, but looks like Glassnode has not provided a weekly insight. So in today's episode, we'll only be discussing the blog and we'll be looking at that at a very basic level. A massive news to do with Ethereum, which is not good, is on discussion as well. And that is to do with its censorship concerns. Now look guys, ever since the Ethereum merge, switching from Ethereum to consensus layer or Ethereum 2.0, the Ethereum blockchain are OFAC-compliant, and that is definitely not ideal, because ideally when you talk about miners' role, it is only to update the ledger and not to validate it. So essentially Ethereum is breaking the laws so far as open blockchain is concerned. Now in today's episode, we have some really breaking news, and that is about Sam Bankman-Fried, and looks like he will be going to US and most likely he could be arrested as well. So we'll discuss that in today's episode, and there is a lot of update regarding Sam Bankman-Fried, so I'll try to cover as much as possible. Regarding UAE, we have two news. And the first news is about Lumi Share, and they have raised $3.2 million in funding. So I'll go ahead and explain what Lumi Share is and where they've gone the fundings from. Then the second news is about Blockchain DXB, and what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be sharing the pillars of open blockchain. Now look guys, this is popularized by none other than the greatest educator of all time, that is Andreas Antonopoulos. So I'm literally going to talk about his points, but I think it's so critical, especially if you've just gotten into the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency space, to truly understand the pillars of open blockchain, that is open source, censorship resistant, permissionless, borderless, neutral, and publicly verifiable. Now this is so critical because in today's episode, we're also going to be discussing Ethereum, which is not censorship resistant, and why that is not ideal for the Ethereum ecosystem. So let's kickstart today's episode. So welcome everyone, it's A-Team here in Dubai and you're listening to Crypto and Coffee at 8. Where we cover top news and information pertaining to Bitcoin, blockchain, beyond blockchain, cryptocurrencies, NFTs, DeFi, and Metaverse. And how the series of episodes in the Crypto and Coffee at 8 works is, we usually cover some top news and information pertaining to the price of cryptocurrencies, some major breaking news, occasionally short and sweet news as well, news that has an impact in the cryptocurrency world. The other two news and information is related to Dubai, UAE, and Middle East in the world of Bitcoin, blockchain, beyond blockchain, cryptocurrencies, NFTs, DeFi, and Metaverse, and this is followed by Ask Me Anything series, where you listeners can ask any questions from the cryptocurrency world. And every Fridays we have an episode called Metaverse Everything, where we solely focus on Metaverse, so please check out those episodes as well. And this week guys, to be honest, while I was preparing for my podcast, I did find quite a lot of news regarding Metaverse, so in this Friday's episode, we'll definitely have a lot to cover so far as Metaverse is concerned. Now listen, the format for Metaverse Everything is completely different, and what I tend to do is I tend to publish a daily and weekly report via LinkedIn, so please follow me on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn profile is in the show notes below. But before we kickstart today's episode, I have an important message, so check this out. Firstly guys, Startup OI is global one tech platform for tech. It offers global high-paying tech jobs with flexibility in working time and location, global free tech events, and tech networks to connect with global like-minded engineers. A brilliant platform to listen to the tech experts in Metaverse and to grab their insights. Now listen, all you have to do is download the app Startup OI. If you're using an Android version, go to Google Store and App Store for iOS devices. Alternatively, you can also click on the show notes below to download Startup OI. Next, guys, listen, if you're into fitness, if you're into adventure, if you want to do something wild but still want to keep your health in check, there is a new podcast in town, a podcast focusing on obstacle course race in the Middle East. The podcast is called Rise in the Obstacle Course Race, and Rise in the Obstacle Course Race podcast is a peer-to-peer community-driven podcast where they talk all about obstacle course race in the Middle East, from Sandstorm to Spartan Race, from Tough Mudder to Desert Warrior Challenge, and also the Government Gov Games, and quite a lot more. The podcast has interviews with athletes locally and internationally to get inside scoop on how athletes prepare for obstacle course race. In the podcast, they also talk about interesting stories on why they are motivated to do obstacle course race. And that's not all. They also plan to release 7 NFTs. And these NFTs are no ordinary. These NFTs will represent every emirate in the UAE. And listen guys, these NFTs are going to be absolutely massive. So do one thing, go to Spotify, go to iTunes, go to any leading podcasting platform and search for Rise in the Obstacle Course Race podcast. And finally guys, not your keys, not your crypto. If you have dabbled with cryptocurrencies and now are seriously getting to protect your cryptocurrencies, there is no better way to protect it by using a hardware wallet. And this is where Ledger Wallet kicks in. And Ledger Wallets are hardware cryptocurrency wallets made by Ledger, a company headquartered in Paris, France. And Ledger's hardware wallets are multi-currency wallets that are used to store private keys for cryptocurrencies offline. And Ledger offers 2 hardware wallets, the Ledger Nano and Ledger Nano X wallets. They are world-class experts with extensive crypto security backgrounds. They continuously look for vulnerabilities in Ledger products in a constant effort to improve the level of security. Now, in today's world, securing these digital assets is a critical challenge, and this is where Ledger kicks in. So click the link below to buy your hardware wallet and support this podcast. It is a brilliant way to support this podcast. So what are you waiting for? The link is in the show notes below. Now, since you've taken care of that, let's look at the global cryptocurrency market. Now, as of today, 21st of December, the global cryptocurrency market is at $810.74 billion, and since the last 24 hours, it has marginally gone down by 0.04%. The total crypto market volume over the last 24 hours is ridiculously low and down to $30.21 billion. And look guys, in 2020 and 2021, probably even in 2018 and 19, on an average day, the total market volume of all cryptocurrencies used to hover well over $100 billion. So December in 2022 is having the worst numbers. Now since the last 24 hours, it is down by 21.78%. The volume of DeFi is ridiculously low and it is down to $1.62 billion. Now in yesterday's podcast, I did talk about the total volume being the lowest. That looks like today's volume, that is 21st of December, the volume might just be the lowest in the history of DeFi. The total value locked is $39.83 billion. MakerDAO still accounts for 15.17%, a majority of the chunk so far as the total value locked of all protocol combined is concerned. And as of today, $6.04 billion is locked in MakerDAO protocol, followed by Lido, which is at $5.94 billion, Aave at number 3, and the total value locked is $3.71 billion. Core Finance, the total value locked looks exactly the same at $3.65 billion, and Uniswap looks exactly the same as yesterday at $3.35 billion. Now, DeFi accounts for 5.01% of the total crypto market 24-hour volume. So the big question is DeFi dead? What is your thoughts, guys? Mention them in the comments below. Now look, if you recently got into the Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency space, you might think that DeFi is doing brilliant. That is not the case. 2020 is the death of DeFi. Hopefully things change and DeFi does account for a majority of the chunk of the cryptocurrency market, because as of now, stablecoin still accounts for 91.57% of the total crypto market volume as of 21st of December, and the volume of stablecoin is at $27.67 billion, a ridiculously low volume. Out of this $27.67 billion, Tether USDT accounts for $20.09 billion, USDC accounts for $2.07 billion, and Binance USD accounts for $4.20 billion. Look guys, these numbers are definitely not looking good. I wouldn't be surprised in the month of January we might see some notorious activity being popping up so far as Tether USDT is concerned, and I'm hoping nothing negative shows up so far as Binance USD is concerned. Now let's quickly look at the market share, 24-hour trading volume and dominance between Bitcoin and Ethereum. Now look guys, the whole purpose of me looking at the market share between Bitcoin and Ethereum and 24-hour trading volume and all those data is, I was under the impression that after 12 to 18 months from the Ethereum merge, Ethereum would flip Bitcoin, and the time horizon that I was looking at was 12 to 18 months, but looks like the time horizon is expanded, and I really am not sure if it might happen after 2 years or 3 years, but let's see how this turns out to be. Now, as of today, the market cap of Bitcoin is $324 billion. Ethereum is at $148 billion. The 24-hour trading volume of Bitcoin is $17.3 billion. Ethereum is at $5.07 billion. And the dominance, surprisingly, of Bitcoin has gone up, which in hindsight is a good thing. It is at 39.97%. In the next few hours, it just might cross the 40% mark. And Ethereum's dominance is at 18.30%. Now let's look at the market cap of the top smart contracting platform. Ethereum's market cap has gone up today, and it is at $149 billion. Binance BNB is at $39.82 billion. Cardano is at $8.71 billion. Now look guys, in yesterday's podcast, I might have accidentally said Cardano's market cap is $18.71 billion. So that is a correction. I might have accidentally added the number 1 before the number 8. So in yesterday's podcast, the number should have been roughly around $8 odd billion. Now today, 21st of December, Cardano's market cap is $8.71 billion. Polkadot is at $5.30 billion and Tron is at $5.09 billion. Now look guys, these numbers are really rookie numbers considering the fact you're talking about the entire world getting into the smart contracting platform. You're talking about insurance, you're talking about supply chain management, not just of cryptocurrencies, but pretty much of everything. Keeping all these things in mind, these are rookie numbers. The numbers should be at least 10x more than what it is. But hopefully in the next decade or so, that thing might happen. Now let's look at the price of the king of all kings, that is Bitcoin. As of today, 21st of December, the price of Bitcoin is down to $16,842. Since the last 24 hours, it is up by 0.29%. Since the last 7 days, though, it is down by minus 5.84%. Ethereum, the first world computer, is at $1,215. Since the last 24 hours, it is marginally up by 0.34%. Since the last 7 days, it is down by 8.49%. Binance Coin is at $248. And since the last 24 hours, it is down by 0.11%. Since the last 7 days, it is down by 7.74%. Now guys, the big question regarding Binance, what I'd like to ask is, by the end of January, what do you think the price prediction of Binance is? Now, I do understand that price predictions are 100% right 50% of the time, but there's a lot of FUD going on, particularly so far as Binance is concerned, and they also have a stable coin that they are very aggressively competing with Circle USDC. So what are your price predictions regarding Binance coin? Mention them in the comments below. And look guys, since the global cryptocurrency market is in an absolute turmoil, there is a massive implication in the Bitcoin mining industry. And few months ago, Laura Shin did have a podcast discussing the impact of Bitcoin mining industry and how much can the Bitcoin mining industry sustain. And few weeks ago, I did talk about Core Scientific. Now, they are one of the largest publicly traded crypto exchange mining firms. And in the past, they did say that if the price of Bitcoin continues to fall down, they did warn the investors that they might be filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Now, earlier today, they did file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection in the state of Texas. Now, Reuters, they provided an article that stated that Core Scientific said it would not liquidate and would continue to operate normally as it expects to enter into a restructuring support agreement with its creditors who represent over 50% of the holders of its convertible notes. And what I'd really recommend you to do is, guys, go to Laura Shin's podcast called Unchained, because in that podcast, they'd go ahead and explain what is happening to the Bitcoin mining industry. So let's say if a new Bitcoin mining industry is set up, and there is a possibility of profits to happen, let's say 3 or 4 years down the line, but because of the liquidity crisis, knowing that you would be having profits 3 to 4 years down the line, because the prices are going down, you still might have to file for bankruptcy. That is the state of the Bitcoin mining industry. And that thing being said, Core Scientific is still continuing its operation. And if you go to the Twitter profile, they are providing daily updates on how many Bitcoin are being mined. And looks like that is automatically being done by a bot. Now, when you're talking about Bitcoin mining industry, some of the dangers of SPAC, that is special purpose acquisition companies, is clearly in play. Now, what happened is that CNBC also did publish an article that states market capitalization of Core Scientific had fallen to $78 million at the end of the trading Tuesday, down from $4.3 billion evaluation in July of 2021, where the company went public through a special purpose acquisition vehicle, or called a SPAC. So what happens is, these companies called a SPAC, or special purpose acquisition companies, they are a bunch of investors, most likely hedge fund investors. They have tie-ups with celebrities. So what these companies they tend to do is, they catch hold of an exchange, some exchange which is not doing so good. They utilize the name of the celebrities, they raise the funds, and then they exit from the market. And looks like that is what has happened to Core Scientific. So when they raised the fund, the valuation went to $4.3 billion. They exit from the market. They take a majority of the chunk of funds that they have raised. The company collapses, and average daily investors, they tend to lose money. So these are the dangers with SPAC. And SPACs are definitely legal. So when you're investing, make sure that you truly understand what you're investing in and truly understand the dangers of SPAC, that is special purpose acquisition company. Now the stock has fallen more than 98% in the last year alone. And look guys, December is definitely not showing signs of any improvement. And CoinShares, they tend to provide a weekly blog via Medium. As a matter of fact, if you go to the blog actually states that the outflows of $30 million were seen last week, and this is because of Federal Reserve Board having the interest rate increased of 50 basis points, and generally the global cryptocurrency market is having a negative sentiment. Bitcoin in particular saw outflows totaling $17.5 million, and Ethereum saw outflows totaling $9.1 million. Now with the weekend coming up, with Christmas coming up, I really am not sure what the price predictions of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies will be towards the Christmas weekend and towards the end of the year. And to add to the turmoil, there is a report put out by CoinDesk that puts some heavy shades so far as Ethereum censorship is concerned. And the article states that in the past 24 hours, 66% of blocks that made into the Ethereum blockchain were OFAC-compliant. Now look guys, this is an absolutely big no. What it essentially means is that they excluded transactions involving parties sanctioned by the US Department of Treasury's Office of Foreign Asset Control. When you talk about cryptocurrencies, these transactions should definitely go through. And this is not ideal for open blockchain protocol such as Ethereum, and Bitcoin maximalists will definitely be making a lot of fuss regarding Ethereum. The article also states Ethereum's censorship problem has grown over the past few months, with some validators in charge of maintaining the blockchain's ledger ignoring certain transactions to comply with regulations, but crypto anti-censorship purists may have reasons to be hopeful. So definitely not ideal. And I did talk about Ethereum censorship concern in my podcast few days ago. So when you talk about the miner's role is only to update the ledger, not to validate and then update the ledger. The validation is where the cryptography kicks in. So when Satoshi Nakamoto solved the double spending problem, he essentially combined cryptography, mathematics, and hashing algorithm. So far as the validation is concerned, the cryptography, mathematics, and hashing algorithm does that. It validates and checks that your private key is linked to your public key, which is connected to your public address, and that you have the relevant funds. So ideally, miners' role should only be able to update the ledger. But what is happening with Ethereum proof of stake? The miners are choosing to ignore transactions that are not OFAC compliant. So definitely not ideal. Now guys, let's have some update on the legend Sam Bankman-Fried. Now Sam Bankman-Fried, the former CEO of FTX, has signed extradition papers, and as per ABC News, will return to the US for charges. This is definitely breaking news, and Sam Bankman-Fried, who is 30, was expected to be in court on Tuesday, but he did not appear in Bahamas. Even his lawyers and US consular officials waited for 2 hours. So looks like the disgraced former CEO, that is Sam Bankman-Fried, signed the papers to waive an extradition hearing from the Bahamas, and as per the news, will now be flown to the United States of America to face persecution. Now I really am not sure why he's done that. So this is circulating in the news right now. Now what I'd really recommend you to do is on YouTube, there is a guy called CoffeeZilla. He's been following Sam Bankman-Fried's news right since Genesis. Apart from that, the only website what I would recommend you to track the progress is CoinDesk, because this whole drama started because of CoinDesk, who released a report about the inner findings of FTX exchange and the connection with Alameda Research. A lot of incorrect information is circulating on LinkedIn, and a lot of incorrect information is circulating by so-called crypto influencers. in YouTube or Instagram and other channels as well. And NBC News has confirmed that Sam Bankman-Fried will fly to the US on Wednesday, that is today. So what are your thoughts, guys? Why do you think he's doing this? Because this seems a bit strange. This entire news seems to getting strange by the day, because in his interaction with Maxine Waters via Twitter, he did say that he was willing to testify online. And just a night before giving testimony, he was arrested in Bahamas. He was supposed to appear in the court in Bahamas. He did not appear in the court of Bahamas, and he just signed the papers to waive an extradition hearing from the Bahamas and will now be flown to USA. So really, really strange. Now what I think, guys, with his connections with extreme left-wing politicians and the massive donation that Sam Bankman-Fried has done, he could go to US, request for bail, and that would be absolutely travesty. Or I wouldn't be surprised if the extreme left-wing politicians and mainstream media will nominate him for Nobel Prize like previous politicians. What are your thoughts, guys? Mention them in the comments below. Now, an article by CNBC states that Democrat Senate Majority PAC plans to return $3 million in donation from Sam Bankman-Fried. Now, the Super PAC by the Democratic Party did receive $160 million during the 2022 election. Now, they're going to be returning $3 million, which is given by Sam Bankman-Fried and by another person called as Singh. So what are your thoughts, guys? What is the future of Sam Bankman-Fried? Mention them in the comments below. And please stay tuned to the news, because there's some really exciting news going on so far as Sam Bankman-Fried is concerned. Now, guys, let's talk about two news regarding UAE. And the first news that I'd like to talk about is LumiShare, and they have raised $3.2 million in funding. So let me just try to give some information of what LumiShare is. Now, the website is illumisrg.io, kind of like Illuminati. So let me just spell it out for you. It's I for India, L for Larry, U for umbrella, M for mother, I for India, S for sugar, R for Roger, G for George.io. So essentially, LumiShare has created an economic method driven by blockchain innovation and relying on traditional economics, specifically the US economy until the 1971. Now, LumiShare's asset-backed NFT marketplace is a financial ecosystem of tokenized real assets, including mines, real estate, agriculture and renewable energy assets, and digital transactions around a community of consumers, investors, and businesses. Now, they have a vision to bring transparency and trust to the crypto markets, and LumiShare has launched the world's first trust token called as SRG, which is backed by three uncorrelated assets, that is gold, cash, and technology. And I'll try to go deeper into that. Now, LumiShare also has introduced the concept of proof of transparency, including proof of gold and proof of funds, in line with its vision of being 100% transparent to the world. So essentially, the token is backed by three uncorrelated assets, the first one being physical gold. Now, let me try to very briefly explain what they do. Now, they will keep a physical gold reserve equivalent to a percentage of the all-time high market cap. The gold will be stored in safe room at a bank in Abu Dhabi in a transparent manner and will be broadcasted live 24/7. The second one is recovery fund. Essentially, it is called the backup of the backup, and their cash reserve will be built from margins between gold market price and their gold price. And once every month, a famous law firm from Abu Dhabi will provide a letter with proof of funds, which they're going to publish on the website. And the final one is technology. So under technology, they have three parts, that is an auto-burn mechanism. The assets are going to be backed by NFT marketplace and staking mechanism. And they also have payment gateway that acts as a third insurance mechanism. So quite a lot of uncorrelated assets. Now, the big news is this particular project is associated with His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Ahmad bin Hamdan Al Nahyan, and the private office of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Ahmad bin Hamdan Al Nahyan from the royal family of Abu Dhabi has joined as the official partner and investor. Now, because of this, LumiShare benefits from the valuable commercial and governmental relationship extended by their partner and will capitalize on key opportunities within the UAE at the launch. Now, this partnership might sound great, but not necessarily ideal so far as the transparency is concerned. So the news essentially which is circulating is that LumiShare, a UAE-based blockchain-based digital asset management ecosystem, raised $3.2 million in funding. Now listen to this, guys. The round was led by His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Ahmad bin Hamdan Al Nahyan from the Abu Dhabi royal family. And Ben Sharon, who's the co-founder of CEO, has said, LumiShare is building a financial ecosystem of tokenized real assets and digital transactions around a community of consumers, investors, and businesses using Trust Token. Its digital asset management ecosystem combines traditional economy methods with blockchain technology to give the crypto community both stability and opportunities. And LumiShare's ticker symbol is $SRG, and LumiShare's SRG token is backed by three uncorrelated assets, that is gold, cash recovery fund, and technology that I just discussed earlier. And look guys, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be dropping an email to Ben Sharon, who's the co-founder and CEO, and I'll try to see if I can get them on the podcast and try to discuss more information about it. Now let me talk about the second news for today, and this is the pillars of open blockchain. Now look guys, I really think it's so critical that you truly understand the pillars of open blockchain, and these pillars of open blockchain is popularized by none other than Andreas Antonopoulos, and it's so critical that everyone needs to truly understand the pillars of open blockchain. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be trying to give my opinions and thoughts on the pillars of open blockchain, but it's so critical that you also truly understand the blockchain trilemma problem as well, that is scalability, security, and decentralization. So any blockchain protocol that compromises either on scalability, decentralization, or on security should definitely be thrown out of the window. Now let's look at the pillars of open blockchain. The first one is open source, the second one is censorship resistant, and in today's podcast we just talked about Ethereum, how there are strong concerns about it being censorship resistant. The third one is permissionless, borderless, neutral, and publicly verifiable. Now when you talk about open source, we truly need to understand who writes the code. But when it comes to central bank digital currencies, they could be open source as well. But the central bank or the officials in the central banks are the only one who will be writing these codes and making changes to the open source. So far as Bitcoin is concerned, absolutely anyone can view the source. Now so far as updating the code is concerned, technically it is only Blockstream who does that, but in theory, absolutely anyone can go ahead and make changes as long as they get the consensus, and getting the consensus is difficult. You need to understand where can anyone access the code. And most often the open source is available either on GitHub or Gitcoin. When you see any blockchain protocol having restrictions to its code, that is a big no. A classic example guys I can think of right now, which is going on in Twitter, the Twitter files which Elon Musk is sharing to the entire world, has clearly exposed what Twitter was doing. Now imagine Twitter having the source completely open, and it would have clearly shown the notorious activity of left-leaning politicians and left-leaning media. The second one is censorship resistant. Now, when you talk about Bitcoin and open blockchain protocol, the transactions cannot be censored, and this is one of the drawbacks which is going on right now in the Ethereum world. So Ethereum's censorship is severely questioned, and this is because of OFAC. And look guys, if you're using MetaMask, you also need to know that MetaMask can censor your transactions depending on the geographical place that you're living at. So MetaMask is definitely not censorship resistant as well. And you truly need to understand what a miner's role is. Miner's role is only to update the transactions onto the ledger, not to validate the transaction. The validation part is done by private key, public key, and public address. That was one of the biggest innovations of Satoshi Nakamoto. So essentially what he did, he compiled cryptography, hashing algorithm, and mathematics so that we do not rely on a central entity to validate the transaction. So miner's role is only to update the transactions, not to validate the transactions. The validation part is done by cryptography. So essentially the private key and public key checks if you have these funds. That's about all. The next one is permissionless. When you talk about open blockchain, there is no permission needed whatsoever. And in one of the questions in the Ask Me Anything series, someone did actually ask, would you let small kids use cryptocurrencies? Now look guys, so far as the definition of Bitcoin and open blockchain is concerned, you do not require any permission. So kids can also go ahead and use cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin and open blockchain. But when it comes to central bank digital currencies, you will require permission. You'll have to do your KYC and quite a lot more. The next one is borderless. Now this is pretty simple, which means that when you talk about open blockchain protocol, you can do transactions anywhere in the world and sanctions cannot take place. As a matter of fact, there are transactions which are done in space as well, and Blockstream did actually do a transaction in space. And Blockstream's website, they also have ways that let's say in times of war, if the internet does actually shut down, you can send your Bitcoin using sound. So the radio frequencies can be used to go ahead and send your Bitcoin as well. So going back to the point of pillars of open blockchain, Bitcoin is completely borderless, and ideally, any open blockchain should be borderless as well. The next point is neutral, and this is the value of using cryptocurrencies or open blockchain absolutely anywhere in the world. Be it North Korea, the value of using is the same as let's say using it in the United States of America, China, Russia, Ukraine, or absolutely anywhere. And the next point is publicly verifiable. At this point of time, I'm pretty much sure that you can go to Blockchain Explorer and verify these transactions. Now, Tether USDT, you can verify these transactions, but they can definitely censor your transactions. So it's so important to understand when you talk about the pillars of blockchain, all of these criteria should be in place, keeping in mind the blockchain trilemma problem. So the pillars of open blockchain are open source, censorship resistant, permissionless, borderless, neutral, and publicly verifiable. And when you talk about blockchain trilemma problem, a blockchain protocol cannot compromise on scalability, decentralization, and security. Now look guys, these are some of the basics, and you'd be surprised. A lot of people in the Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, and blockchain space, in the so-called Web 3.0 space, even truly don't understand the basics and the pillars of open blockchain. And what I'd recommend you to do is go to YouTube, look out for Andreas Antonopoulos, Pillars of Open Blockchain. So that's all for today guys on the Crypto and Coffee Update from Blockchain DXB. In case if you have any feedback or suggestions, please drop me an email to info@blockchaindxb.com. You can also check out my website, that is www.blockchaindxb.com, and also check out my other website, that is area2071.com, that talks everything about Metaverse. And if you like listening to this podcast, please click on the follow button, give it a 5-star rating, and share the word across. Now for the next few minutes is going to be an Ask Me Anything series, where you listeners can ask any questions regarding Bitcoin, blockchain, beyond blockchain, cryptocurrencies, NFTs, DeFi, and Metaverse. So let's kick start with the Ask Me Anything series. Hey everyone, it's George from Blockchain DXB. You're listening to the Ask Me Anything series, where you listeners can ask any questions regarding Bitcoin, blockchain, beyond blockchain, cryptocurrencies, NFTs, DeFi, and Metaverse. And how the series of episodes on the Crypto and Coffee Date works is, we usually cover some top news and information pertaining to the price of cryptocurrencies, some major breaking news, occasionally short and sweet news as well, news that has an impact in the cryptocurrency world. The other two news and information is related to Dubai, UAE, and Middle East in the world of Bitcoin, blockchain, beyond blockchain, cryptocurrencies, NFTs, DeFi, and Metaverse. And what you're listening to right now is the Ask Me Anything series, where you listeners can ask any questions from the cryptocurrency world. I have a question by Rashmi who asks, do you think Sam Bankman-Fried could face lifetime imprisonment? To be completely honest, Rashmi, I really am not sure, because there is a lot of drama going on, particularly since his arrest. If you go back to his Twitter account, and I'm pretty much sure that his tweet is still there right now, he did have a conversation with Maxine Waters, and Maxine Waters was representing the team that is going after Sam Bankman-Fried. And the conversation was really polite, and he did say that he is willing to testify and give his testimony. Now, a night before he was willing to give the testimony, he got arrested in Bahamas. So that seemed a bit odd, and there were theories that the reason he got arrested is so that he cannot give testimony, because if he does give his testimony, anything he says without any legal consent could get him into jail. And surprisingly, in Bahamas, he was supposed to meet the lawyers, and before meeting the lawyers, he actually signed a waiver stating he is willing to get extradited to United States of America. Now look, Rashmi, knowing the left-leaning politicians and the notorious history and the corrupt ideologies, I wouldn't be surprised if Sam Bankman-Fried does actually get bail in just a matter of few hours. You need to understand that his parents, both his mom and dad, were politicians, and he is heavily donated to politicians as well. Now, one theory that I've heard, and this is only on YouTube, is that Sam Bankman-Fried, when he gave donations to left-leaning politicians, he might be having certain secrets. Now, I'm not sure if there is any legitimacy to it, but that could be one of the reasons why he wants to go to the US, because going to the US should be the last thing on his agenda, because based on the report, it clearly looks like, he's been indicted for quite a number of frauds, and if that thing goes through as it should be, he should be in jail for the next 115 years. Now, will that thing happen? I really am not sure, but I'm pretty much sure that in Netflix, in the next couple of years or so, we're definitely going to be having a documentary. And I do think the documentary is going to start with a tweet message with CZ from Binance tweeting about taking the funds from FTX exchange, and the reply from Sam Bankman-Fried. I'm pretty much sure that's how the documentary is going to start. But to answer your question, I really am not sure if he's going to be facing life imprisonment because he is heavily invested with politicians. And last week, the current CEO of FTX was recently hired after the whole debacle with Sam Bankman-Fried. He had a hearing with the US Senate, and there was Kevin O'Leary who kept on giving lies one after the other, and they were trying to blame CZ from Binance rather than focusing on FTX and the mistakes. So knowing the history of left-leaning politicians and the heavy donations, I really am not sure if he'll be going for lifetime imprisonment. I have another question by Carl who asks, if you had $10,000, where would you invest it? Now, I'm pretty much sure, Carl, that someone did actually ask me this question just a few days ago on my podcast, but let me try to give another view on it. If, let's say, I had $10,000 at this point of time, what I would personally do is $6,000 I would put right up front in Bitcoin. Now, this is a perfect time because the prices of Bitcoin has gone down. And look, Carl, one thing which I've been saying quite often is when you talk about blockchain, there are really very limited use case beyond Bitcoin, that is sending Bitcoin from one person to another. I do not see any use case of other blockchain protocols, but that thing being said, $2,000 I would still invest in Ethereum, although I don't see much use case of Ethereum, particularly now when there's a lot of censorship concern. And the remaining, let's say, $2,000, $1,000, Carl, what I'll do is I'll definitely go ahead and buy meme coins, and it's going to be a mixture of, let's say, Dogecoin, Shiba Inu coins, and a couple of other shit coins as well. And the remaining, let's say, $800 or so, I'll definitely go ahead and put in Cardano ADA. Now, in an idealistic world, Cardano ADA should be spearheading the cryptocurrency world, but the best known technology does not necessarily win. The most known technology or the most advertised technology wins. Then the remaining $200, let's say I'll try to put it on a DeFi protocol, and I think that pretty much summed up $10,000. But again, this is definitely not investment advice, and I'll definitely not recommend to follow my investment strategy whatsoever. So that's all for today, guys, on the Ask Me Anything series on Blockchain DXB. In case if you have any feedback or suggestions, please drop me an email to info@blockchaindxb.com and check out my website, that is www.blockchaindxb.com, and also check out my other website, that is area2071.com, that talks everything about Metaverse. And if you like listening to this podcast, please click on the follow button, give it a 5-star rating, and share the word across. And remember, guys, Monday to Thursdays, 8 a.m. to 8:30 a.m., we have Crypto and Coffee at 8, where we cover top news and information pertaining to Bitcoin, blockchain, beyond blockchain, cryptocurrencies, NFTs, DeFi, and Metaverse. And how the series of episodes into Crypto and Coffee at 8 works is, we usually cover some top news and information pertaining to the powers of cryptocurrencies, some major breaking news, occasionally short and sweet news as well, news that has an impact in the cryptocurrency world. The other two news and information is related to Dubai, UAE, and Middle East in the world of Bitcoin, blockchain, beyond blockchain, cryptocurrencies, NFTs, DeFi, and Metaverse. And what you're listening to right now is the Ask Me Anything series, where your listeners can ask any questions from the cryptocurrency world. So thanks so much for listening, guys, and have a nice one. Bye-bye.